The first thing you learn on Jungla Prime isn't how to hunt or fight. It's how to be afraid. Not the kind of fear that makes you freeze. No, freezing gets you killed. It's the kind of fear that sharpens your hearing, burns your lungs, and makes your legs run before your brain understands why. You don't learn this from your parents. You learn it from the jungle itself. I was 5 when I watched my older brother get swallowed whole. We were out gathering root fruits, bulbous things that look like tumors growing from tree trunks. We knew better than to stray from the narrow paths our village had cleared, but sometimes hunger speaks louder than wisdom. He saw it first, a glimmering blue vine with spiked petals, beautiful, delicate. He reached out, thinking it was one of the safe ones. It wasn't. The vine lunged, not like a plant should move, but like a snake that had been waiting for hours. Its thorns pierced his arm, pumping something thick and black into his veins. He screamed. The jungle echoed that scream like it was laughing, and before I could pull him away, the ground beneath him split open. It was a mouth, a real one, lined with rows of bark-colored teeth. It dragged him down. One blink, he was gone. I didn't cry, not because I was brave, but because even then, I knew the jungle doesn't care for mourning. I ran. That's how you survive in this world. Not by being the strongest, not even the smartest, just fast enough, just alert enough. I didn't tell my parents. What was the point? They'd seen it happen to others. If you told them a kid didn't come back, they'd just nod, hand you a knife, and remind you not to be next. You don't live on Jungla Prime. You persist. The jungle doesn't sleep. At night, the plants hum. Some glow faintly, others change shape. Trees uproot themselves and shift position like they're watching you. The insects sound like whispers. You can never tell if the voices are real or if the spores in the air are messing with your mind again. We called our village Goras Pit, just a ring of huts built on a patch of scorched earth that the plants hadn't yet reclaimed. Every week, someone disappeared. Every week, someone was born. The balance maintained itself. No one made plans. No one dreamed. We weren't raised to hope, just to last. And yet, in that madness, I remember moments of stillness, like the nights my mother would braid my hair while humming a song in an old dialect no one really understood anymore. She had only 3 fingers left on her right hand. The rest were taken by a thing she refused to describe. My father rarely spoke. He was more scar tissue than man, covered in old burns and bite marks, but he'd sharpen blades with this eerie patience that made you feel like maybe, just maybe, he wasn't afraid of the jungle at all. But he was. Everyone was. The trick was pretending you weren't. There's no school, no real childhood. You start training the day you can walk. Knives first, then traps, then fire, though fire was dangerous. Not just because of the heat, but because the smell of burning flesh could attract the wrong kind of attention. One day, when I was 7, I found a girl in the trees. Not from our village. She had pale skin, clearly from somewhere else, or maybe from one of the other jungle tribes. She was covered in mud, motionless, eyes wide open. Dead, I thought. Then she blinked. I whispered, "What are you doing?" She didn't answer, just held a finger to her lips. That's when I heard it, a low chittering from above. I didn't look up. I knew better. Some predators mimic their prey's final screams. Some imitate human voices. I lay beside her, still as stone, mud soaking into my skin. Hours passed, maybe days. Time works differently when you're prey. By the time the noise stopped and we finally moved, I asked her again, "Where are you from?" She said nothing, just vanished between the trees. I never saw her again, but I never forgot her. How calm she was. How she knew the rules of the jungle better than I did. I think about her when I kill now. When I move through the underbrush with silent steps and steady breath. She was the first ghost I met, but not the last. You don't grow up here. You adapt or you vanish. And adapting means accepting the nightmares. Sometimes at night, the jungle speaks. Not in words, in dreams. You feel vines wrapping around your thoughts. Memories that don't belong to you. Faces you've never seen. Sounds that make no sense, but wake you up sweating all the same. One elder claimed the jungle is alive, not just biologically, but truly sentient. He said it communicates through spores, through hallucinations, through shared trauma. We laughed at him until he walked into the jungle naked one night, whispering apologies to the trees. We never saw him again. Only his skin, days later, draped over a branch like a warning. Another time, I remember hearing a lullaby. My mother's voice, soft, fragile, but she was back in the hut. When I turned around, a figure that looked just like her stood in the clearing. Same smile, same braid, but her eyes empty, like holes punched through flesh. I ran. The next day, I burned that part of the forest. It screamed. On Jungla Prime, nothing is ever what it seems. Even yourself. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still human, or just something the jungle shaped to look that way. It doesn't matter, because here, the jungle eats. It doesn't roar. It doesn't chase. It waits. It learns. It remembers. And if you survive long enough, it becomes part of you. Sometimes we heard the jungle weep. Not cry weep. A low, groaning vibration from the roots themselves. Like something massive and ancient was mourning deep below the soil. You could feel it in your bones. One elder told me it was the old jungle dreaming of when it ruled more than just this planet, that it once reached the stars. He said it's sleeping now, but not for long. We dismissed it as madness, until the weeping stopped one night, and something new emerged from the mist. It looked like a man, pale, shaking, naked. We thought he was a survivor from another village. My father and two others took spears and approached him cautiously. He said his name was Varn. His voice was dry, distant. He didn't blink. He didn't even seem to breathe. When they brought him closer to the village fire, the truth came out. He had no shadow, not cast by torchlight, not under the red moon. Nothing. We burned him before sunrise. The fire howled. After that, my mother started marking our door with ash from the burned vines. Said it kept the jungle spirits away. I never believed in spirits. Not until the jungle started whispering my name at night. At first, I thought it was in my head. Then one night, when I was 9, I turned around and saw myself, standing there barefoot, covered in leaves and blood, smiling. It wasn't a dream. It didn't speak. It just watched. Then it ran into the trees, faster than anything I'd ever seen. I didn't chase it. You don't chase what the jungle sends. You accept it. That was the night I carved my first kill. A small lizard dog that had been stalking the village kids for weeks. I caught it, slit it open, and smeared its blood on my face. No one told me to. I just knew I had to. The elders said nothing, just nodded. That's how you know you've started to belong. When the jungle stops testing you and starts whispering back. That night, I slept without fear for the first time. And that's when I truly understood. You don't conquer the jungle. You make peace with it. You become part of it. Jungla Prime isn't just dangerous. It's sentient chaos. An ecosystem that doesn't just survive, it devours. Some say it's the planet's atmosphere that makes it insane, thick with spores and pheromones that twist your instincts. Others believe the warp touched this place long ago, infecting its very biology with madness. I don't know what's true. I just know that nothing here behaves like it should. The plants bleed, the stones shift, the rain burns. Every living thing is a predator, and if it isn't, it's dead already. The sky is green most days, not blue, tinted by the constant pollen haze that hangs over the canopy like smoke. It makes the sun look sick, like a dying eye. You can't breathe it in raw. Our elders taught us to crush and chew a root called Gortha's tongue. It coats your lungs, makes you cough thick black mucus, but it's the only reason you don't start hallucinating within minutes. Some don't chew it in time. They see shapes in the trees, voices in the wind, smiles carved into bark, and then they walk into the dark, and the jungle doesn't give them back. Even the rivers kill, not just from parasites or toxins, but the water itself. You'll be drinking and feel something wiggle into your gums, or you'll look down and see your reflection blink, and then it drags you in. There was a boy once, Toma, same age as me, thought he could cross the Blackroot stream on a dare. He made it halfway before something under the water took his leg. We found his body days later, impaled on a tree branch 10 meters up, like something had thrown him there. You'd think we'd stop swimming after that. We didn't, because fear here isn't teacher. It's background noise. The beasts are worse. We had a saying, if you can see its eyes, it's not hunting you. That's comforting in a twisted way. Most predators here camouflage perfectly, down to mimicking human footsteps or baby cries. They lure, they watch, they learn your routines. There's a thing we call the skin crow. Imagine a spider the size of a man, with a human face stretched over its front. Not real, just mimicry. Its legs move like arms, and it makes a sound like someone sobbing. First time I saw one, I almost ran to it, thinking it was my mother. By the time I realized, it had already started descending, hanging upside down on a thread made of hair. I threw fire. It screamed, but didn't die. Nothing here dies easily. We retreated to the village and burned the entire grove. Fire buys you time, not safety. And the worst part? That was a young one. They grow, they molt, they breed inside the bodies of whatever they catch. Once, the jungle rained skin crows. A migration, dozens falling from the upper canopy, like nightmares with legs. We lost 17 people that day. Some were taken whole. Others, we only found the faces. But it's not just the big things. The smallest things kill the worst. Spores that turn your insides into fungus. Flies that lay eggs in your tear ducts. Worms that replace your veins and feed off fear. You don't get sick on Jungla Prime. You get harvested. We had one healer in our village, Olin. Old woman with no eyes, just scarred sockets she covered with cloth. Said sight distracted her. She cured some wounds, sure, but mostly she prepared the dead. Wrapped them in thorn leaf, burned their names into bark tablets, and whispered their essence back into the trees. I asked her once why she bothered. She said, so they don't come back angry. On Jungla Prime, death isn't the end. The jungle recycles. It remembers your scent, your voice, even your face. And sometimes, in the deep brush, you'll swear you see someone long gone, standing perfectly still, not breathing, watching. There are rules we live by, not written, just understood. Don't walk the same path twice. The jungle remembers patterns. If you take the same route in and out, something will be waiting the second time. It doesn't forget footsteps. It tracks vibrations. One boy, Jesh, broke that rule. Came back from collecting bark sap. Same path, same pace. His scent was still fresh. The vines were waiting. Silent. Hungrier. They found his bones 3 days later, picked clean, but neatly arranged, like art. Don't sleep near flowers. They aren't flowers. They're traps. Some release gas that numbs your lungs. Others mimic warmth, luring you in like a bed, only to clamp shut and digest you slowly. One kid fell asleep next to a red blossom that smelled like cinnamon. By morning, it had replaced half his torso with roots. He was still alive when we burned it off. He didn't scream. He just said, "It's in me now." He was right. Never eat anything sweet. If it tastes good, it's bait. The jungle doesn't reward pleasure, only punishment. My cousin Mira once found a honey fruit, rare, golden, and fragrant. She bit into it, smiled, said it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Then her tongue turned black. Then her eyes melted. She died chewing her own hands, trying to get the sweetness out. The jungle hates joy. We had stories passed down through whispers, stories of travelers who came from off-world, Imperial scouts, traders, even missionaries. They came thinking we were savages, that we needed salvation. They came with clean boots, clear eyes, full bellies. They didn't last a week. Their tech failed. Comms jammed. Weapons jammed. Even their armor cracked like eggshells after a few days in the spores. The jungle gets inside machines too. It doesn't just hunt flesh. One survivor made it back to our village. A woman, officer by her markings. She was covered in bite marks, vines growing from her joints. She couldn't speak anymore, just gasped in binary clicks. We think she tried to call for help, but her Vox unit had become part of her ribcage. She died that night, bursting into roots and moss. We didn't bury her. We burned her and the ground she touched, and we whispered a warning to the trees. We are still your children, not theirs. The jungle breeds monsters, but it also births warriors. We learn to walk silently, to drink water filtered through bloodroot, to crush our own waste and scatter it to confuse predators. We rubbed insect resin on our skin to hide our heat signature, slept in trees, built nests that smelled like bark to avoid detection. You don't fight the jungle with strength. You survive it with cunning and cruelty. Every lesson we learned cost someone their life. We didn't cry for them. We memorized how they died. That was how you honored someone, by making sure you didn't die the same way. My own test came when I was 10, a night in the blood pits. Alone. No fire. No blade. Just instinct. They put you there when they think you're ready, or if they think you're already too weak to be worth saving. I lasted 2 nights. On the third, something came. Long-limbed. No eyes. Just a mouthful of mandibles and wet breath. It didn't roar. It just clicked. I didn't run. I stayed still. Just like that girl in the trees had taught me. Let it sniff me. Let it circle. Then I cut my own arm and smeared the blood on a rock. Backed away slowly. Prayed it would follow the scent. It did. When it lunged, I rolled. Slammed sharpened femur I'd carved into its throat. It thrashed for 10 minutes. I watched it die with quiet respect. Then I carved off its mandibles and wore them around my neck. I still do. The jungle gave me scars, but it also gave me purpose. You don't grow up on Jungla Prime. You evolve. There are no birthdays on Jungla Prime. Time doesn't move in weeks or months. It moves in survivors. and scars, and the number of days since you last buried someone. By the time I was 11, I'd watched 6 friends die. By 12, I stopped calling them friends. You don't make attachments. You memorize faces, not names, because the jungle takes them too fast for grieving to matter. We woke each day before the sun could rise through the pollen mist. First task, check the perimeter. Not for predators, those are easy to spot. We looked for signs of movement in the trees, shifts in branch angles, fungus growing too fast, wet bark, all signs something new had arrived overnight. The jungle never announces itself. It just adjusts. One morning, I found our animal pens empty. Not attacked. Empty. No blood. No broken cages. Just gone. Like they had never existed. And carved into the dirt. Perfectly neat. Thank you. We stopped keeping animals after that. We hunted daily. Not for sport, but survival. Most kids my age learned to use a bone knife before they spoke full sentences. But killing on Jungla Prime isn't the hard part. It's knowing when not to. Some beasts you don't kill, even if they're cornered, even if you're starving. If a predator looks at you and doesn't move, you walk away. It's testing you, daring you. And if you strike first, you better kill it instantly, because hesitation is fatal. I remember Lika, small, fierce. She was good with traps, had this laugh that somehow cut through the thick, hot air like a bird call. One day, she found Silk Wolf den. Should have left it alone, but the pelts were valuable. She killed one, dragged it back, smiling, proud. That night, her hut was torn apart. We found what was left of her across half the village. But here's the thing. No one blamed the jungle. We blamed her for being arrogant, for not respecting the balance. You grow up fast or you die fast. We had drills, silent ones. Elders would scream mid-meal. That meant drop everything and vanish. No sound, no questions. Hide, breathe slow. I remember freezing mid-bite, dropping a half-cooked rat skewer, crawling under a floorboard, heart hammering in my chest while a shadow passed over the hut, something large enough to blot out the sun. Wings, tentacles, we never saw it, but its presence turned everything cold, like the jungle itself was holding its breath. And then, just as quickly, it was gone. We stayed hidden for hours, not because we had to, but because moving too soon means you don't get another chance. Another time, we got sick. All of us. It started with rashes, then vomiting black fluid. The healer Olin said we'd inhaled something ancient, spores from a newly opened cave. For 3 days, we lay in the heat, twitching, hallucinating. I remember seeing a man with leaves for skin feeding the ash. Only 5 of us survived. No one spoke of the others. We just took their tools and moved on. There's no mourning here. Only momentum. There was no laughter. No stories at night. Just sharpening stones and silence. If we had time, we trained. Blindfolded, barefoot, in thickets of thorn. We learned to move without noise, without hesitation. We were children in body, but the jungle didn't care about age, so we didn't either. Once a month, the elders held what they called the crawl. You'd be sent alone through the weeping trees, a maze of fungus and warped roots, home to whisper lizards and ash beetles. The goal wasn't to kill anything, just to come back. Not everyone did. If you returned, you weren't cheered. Just handed your next task. I lost my first real friend in the crawl. His name was Barak. He carved stories into bones, small scenes of what we saw in the jungle. I still have one. Shows a kid climbing a tree, holding a blade in his mouth. He gave it to me the night before he vanished. We found pieces of him later, his foot, one eye, left at the edge of camp, cleanly arranged, like someone wanted us to see. We buried what we found. I buried the bone carving. I didn't cry. Not then. Not until years later, when I was cleaning my blade and saw my own reflection in it, and realized I looked like one of the monsters he used to draw. Childhood wasn't about play. It was about endurance. We learned to kill silently, to gut prey fast, to recognize venom by the way it tingled on our tongue. We used blood to mark trails, covered wounds in leech fungus to draw out poison, slept in rotating shifts, ate in pairs, trusted no one completely, because even a friend could snap under pressure. There was a girl, Rana, who started talking to herself, said the trees whispered her name. We thought she was cracked, but she was smart, killed a nest of bone birds single-handedly, with nothing but sharpened glass. Then one night, she stabbed another child in their sleep. No warning, no motive. When we confronted her, she said, he was going to leave. The jungle told me. We didn't exile her. We fed her to the trees. You might think that's cruel. It is. But on Jungla Prime, mercy kills everyone. I still remember my worst night. The stars were red. That meant heat. Kind that makes skin blister and animals restless. I was 12, mid-watch, listening for movement. That's when I heard the clicking. Skin crows. But not just one. A flock. I woke the others. Too late. They were already inside. Through the canopy. Through the gaps in the huts. I saw my uncle torn apart. My neighbor disemboweled. Blood everywhere. Screams cut off before they echoed. I grabbed a torch. Ran. Tried to make noise. To draw them from the younger ones. It worked. One chased me. I don't remember the sprint. Only the sound. The click, click, click behind me. Always just out of reach. I climbed a corpse tree. Tall, brittle. Full of dry pods that smelled like bone dust. The thing waited below. For hours. By morning, it was gone. I came down. Covered in ash. Dried blood on my arms. I don't remember shaking. Just walking. Back to the village. No one spoke. We just gathered the pieces. Burned what we couldn't recognize. And started rebuilding. That was the last time I felt afraid. After that, fear became background noise. After that night, I stopped dreaming. Not because I didn't sleep, but because the jungle doesn't let you forget. Even in rest, your mind stays on alert, counting heartbeats, listening for clicks, adjusting to shadows. If you dream, it's because something has slipped past your defenses, and that's how it kills you. We learn to sleep like predators. One eye half open, muscles tight. I slept with a blade in each hand. Even now, as a grown man, I wake up ready to kill. Not from fear, from habit. The jungle raised us on instincts, not emotions. I barely remembered my own voice. We didn't speak unless it was necessary. Communication was hand signs, glances, blood marks. You forget how to laugh. You forget your own birthday. What you never forget is what it smells like when someone you love dies beside you. Once I thought about running, leaving the jungle, wandering into the mountains, hoping maybe the world outside was gentler. Then I found what was left of another tribe, far from ours, burnt out, bodies fossilized in twisted prayer. Something had wiped them out completely, not the jungle, something else. That's when I understood. This wasn't just our problem. Jungla Prime wasn't a planet that had gone wild. It was a design, a system of consumption, of transformation, a test. and we were the raw material. Looking back now, I don't see my childhood as tragic, just necessary. The jungle didn't hate us. It taught us not how to live, how to endure. And in every scar, every nightmare, every name I've forgotten, I carry its lessons. Because one truth remains, more than any other. On Jungla Prime, every day is a trial, and survival is the only answer. Her name was Enna, my sister, 2 years older, 2 lifetimes braver. She was the only one who made the jungle seem small, not because it was, but because she refused to shrink for it. When we hunted, she walked first. When we fought, she never backed down. If the jungle tried to frighten us, Enna would spit in the mud and say, "Try harder." Everyone respected her, even the elders. But respect doesn't stop the jungle from taking. It just makes it hurt worse when it does. We were out gathering skullcaps, bitter blue fungus that grows under corpse trees. Only place you can find the stuff. We used it to treat infections. It also kept the dreams away. She spotted a growth near the base of one of the older trees. Told me to stay back. Something about the way the bark had curled didn't feel right. I listened. That was rare. She edged closer. Quiet. Blade drawn. Watching the roots. Then the air shifted. No sound. Just a pressure. Like the trees had inhaled all at once. And then she was gone. No scream. No thrashing. Just gone. I ran to where she'd stood. Nothing. No blood. No footprints. Just her blade, embedded in the bark like it had been placed there. I screamed for hours. Cut my palms clawing through dirt and moss. Called her name until my throat bled. Nothing. I waited there all night. And all the next day. The jungle didn't answer. But something did. The following evening, I saw her. At least, I thought I did. A figure in the trees. Same stance. Same braid. Eyes wide. But there was no soul in them. She didn't move. Didn't speak. I stepped forward. She vanished. Like smoke in the wind. Back at the village, I tried to tell them. They just looked away. One of the elders, Vesh, put a hand on my shoulder. He said, "She's part of it now." And I understood. The jungle hadn't killed her. It had kept her. I didn't speak for a week. Didn't eat. Barely slept. The elders said it was natural. That grief was just another form of digestion. Your soul chewing on pain until it could swallow it. But I wasn't grieving. I was listening, trying to hear her voice in the trees, in the rustling leaves, in the soil. I thought maybe if I was quiet enough, I'd hear her say something, anything. But all I heard were whispers that weren't hers, things that sounded like her, felt like her, but weren't. The jungle knows how to use what you love against you. I started seeing her everywhere. Brief flashes, a smile behind vines, a shadow standing where none should be, her laugh and the hum of the branches. And every time I reached out, nothing. That's when I broke. One night, I took her blade and walked into the dark. No root chew, no weapon but hers. I wanted the jungle to take me too. Let it turn me into whatever she had become. I wandered until my feet bled, until the pollen caked my throat, until the stars overhead blurred into red and blue halos. That's when I saw it, her body, hanging from a tree, not fresh, but preserved, like the jungle had grown around her, cradling her like a cocoon. She wasn't decayed. She was sleeping, eyes open, skin pale, lips parted. It wasn't death. It was something else, awaiting. I climbed the tree, sat beside her, held her hand. It was warm, and then she breathed, just once, Shallow, weak. I wept. I shook. I begged her to speak. Her mouth moved, and out came roots. I jumped, fell hard, snapped something in my arm. Didn't care. The tree twisted above me. Not in anger, in release. It let her go. She hit the ground like water. When I got up, there was nothing left. Only the blade, still warm. Back home, I said nothing. No one asked. Vesh saw the cut in my arm, the bruises on my back. Just nodded. Later that week, he handed me a new task. My first hunt alone. You've joined the jungle now, he said. I nodded, but something inside me had shattered, not from pain, but clarity. I knew now what the jungle really was. It wasn't just a predator. It was memory. It didn't forget what it took, and neither would I. That was the last time I searched for anyone. Something in me died with her, but it wasn't grief. It was the part of me that thought the jungle could be reasoned with, that it had rules. It didn't. It had hunger, and that hunger didn't care how much you loved someone. After Enna, I stopped reacting to loss. When someone disappeared, I didn't ask where. When someone screamed, I didn't run toward the sound. Not anymore. I became what the jungle wanted. Silent, watching, waiting. We all did eventually. It was the only way to survive. The village changed after that. Or maybe I changed, and everything just looked different. I noticed how the elders watched us. Not with care, but calculation. Like farmers deciding which crops might grow and which should be burned. I wasn't a child anymore. I wasn't even a person. I was material, flesh shaped by fear. One night, a storm rolled in, the kind that stripped the trees bare and sent spores flying like ash. We covered our faces with bark wraps and dug shallow pits to breathe through. Lightning flashed green against the canopy, and in one of those flashes, I saw them. Figures, dozens, human-shaped, standing on the tree-line, not moving, not breathing, just watching. The jungle had remembered Enna, and now it was showing me what came next. I didn't tell anyone what I saw, but I started sharpening my blades differently after that. Not for cutting, but for silence, for precision. I began to think like the jungle, to trust no light, no voice, no reflection. I stopped asking questions, stopped hoping for safety. There was no lesson to be learned here, no justice, no mercy, only this truth. The jungle does not kill out of hate. It kills because that is its nature. And if you survive it long enough, that nature becomes yours. By 13, you were expected to prove yourself. Not to the village, to the jungle. We didn't call it a ceremony. There were no chants, no painted faces, no fire. Just silence. An elder would hand you a sack, inside, a dull blade, one root to chew, and a bone whistle. The rest was up to you. They called it endurance. You were sent into the deep jungle alone, farther than we'd ever been allowed to go. Past the bleeding groves, beyond the ash pits, into what they called the hollow zone. It wasn't mapped. No one came to guide you. No one came to check if you lived. If you returned, you were changed. If you didn't, your bones fed the trees. I remember the weight of the sack in my hands, how light it felt for something that would decide whether I became a hunter, or just another echo in the vines. They sent me at dusk. No words, just a nod, and the jungle opened like it had been waiting. Within hours, I lost all sense of direction. The air was thicker there, hotter. Breathing it felt like drinking oil. I chewed the root, but it did little. My skin itched. I heard movement, always behind me, never close. The whistle hung from my neck like a taunt. You weren't supposed to use it. If you did, It meant you'd given up. It meant you wanted to be found. No one wanted to be found in the hollow zone. The first night, I climbed a twisted tree and strapped myself in with vines. Didn't sleep, just listened. The second night, I killed a crawler. Big thing, all legs, no eyes, but it bled like a man. Its scream stayed in my ears long after I'd gutted it. I smeared its blood on my face, not for ritual, for camouflage. On the third day, I stopped feeling fear, and that's when I knew I'd either survive, or I already hadn't. The jungle didn't test your strength. It tested your silence, your patience, your willingness to lose yourself and still keep moving. By the fifth day, I'd stopped counting footsteps. My lips were cracked. I hadn't seen the sun in 2 days, just glowing spores and pale green light from the undergrowth. My body was eating itself. Every breath tasted like rotting bark. And then I found the pit. A sinkhole, perfectly round, 30 meters wide, lined with roots that pulsed like veins. At the bottom, bones. Hundreds. Skulls. Spines. Pelvises split clean. All arranged in spirals, like something had been nesting in grief. I should have walked away, but the jungle doesn't let you walk where it wants you to fall. The ground shifted beneath me. Soft, wet. I didn't fall. I was taken. I woke to pain. My leg bent wrong. Arm numb. I was hanging, upside down, wrapped in vines. But not just hanging, draining. The vines were slowly siphoning blood from my skin. Tiny cuts, barely big enough to feel. But I saw the color in the leaves. Red. Mine. I didn't panic. Panic gets you killed. I bit my tongue hard enough to bleed. Spat the blood onto the nearest vine. Then I whispered, "You'll choke on me." And then I screamed. Not in fear, but rage. It didn't matter who heard. Let them come. Let everything come. I grabbed the bone whistle, shoved it into my mouth. Didn't blow. I bit down until it shattered. Spat the pieces into the pit. That's when the vines retracted. The jungle didn't fear weapons, but it feared those with nothing left to lose. I hit the ground hard, bones cracking beneath me. Not mine. Someone else's. Someone who hadn't screamed. I climbed out slowly, bleeding, limping, mind fractured. On the 7th day, I stumbled into a grove of mirror flowers, pale blue things that reflect your image back 1,000 times. I saw myself, or thought I did, but in each reflection, I was smiling, and none of those smiles were mine. I shut my eyes and walked through them, didn't look back. The jungle stopped testing me after that. Didn't offer food, didn't whisper, didn't try to trick me. It just watched. It knew. I wasn't prey anymore. When I returned to the village, I didn't announce myself. I didn't need to. The children stared. The elders nodded. One of them handed me a sharp blade, blackened from fire and blood. "You kept the jungle's silence," he said. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I wasn't one of them anymore. Not entirely. I was something between. Hunter. Shadow. Memory. The jungle had taken everything from me, and then it made me into something it couldn't take back. Something it would use. I had endured, and now I would teach the others how. After the endurance, something was different, not just in me, in how the jungle looked at me. It sounds insane to say a planet can look, but you feel it. The weight of its attention shifts. Before, it stalked me. After, it watched me like I was one of its own. I didn't feel pride. I felt empty, cold, like I'd left something behind in that pit I never got back. My hands stopped shaking during kills. My eyes stopped blinking when blood sprayed my face. The fear that once kept me alive had become a distant memory. replaced by instinct, by clarity. Now I hunted for the village, but I didn't bring back meat. I brought back warnings. I tracked predators before they reached us. I read the language of roots. I sniffed decay and knew what direction death was moving in. I'd leave symbols burned into trees, not words, just marks that said, "Don't follow me. Don't speak of me." Some obeyed, others didn't, and they vanished. One day a child followed me. Small, curious, maybe 6. I didn't hear him until he was close. Impressive. He had talent, but he was too loud, breathing hard, excited. I didn't turn around, just whispered, "You're going to die." He froze, not because of the words, but because the jungle had heard him too. Something massive slithered above us, thick coils dragging across the canopy. He looked up. I tackled him into the mud, covered his mouth. We waited. The shape passed. I looked him in the eyes and said, "Don't ever follow me again." He nodded. I never saw him near the forest after that. I began to feel the jungle before I saw it. Changes in the air pressure, the shift in leaf angles, the way silence thickened before something hunted. It was like we were speaking the same language now, not with words, with violence. Every hunt was a ritual. I'd walk for hours without a sound, covered in mud and insect wax. I stopped wearing shoes, let my skin toughen, crack, bleed. The pain made me sharper, quieter, closer to what the jungle respected. I didn't kill unless I had to, but when I did, it was fast, precise, final. I stopped bringing trophies home. No more teeth, no skins, not even blood. The jungle didn't like showing off. It liked humility. I learned that when a boy returned wearing a giant horned skull on his back, smiling like he'd conquered something, 3 nights later, he was torn in half. We found claw marks in his bones, but no blood. The jungle didn't just kill him, it erased him. I dreamed less and less. When I did, it was always the same. I was walking through trees with no leaves, just bones hanging like fruit. Each one had a face I knew, some still alive, some long gone. They whispered things I didn't understand, but I always woke with dirt in my mouth and the taste of moss on my tongue. The jungle was inside me now, not metaphorically, literally. I found strange roots growing under my nails, skin patterns shifting like camouflage. My hearing sharpened. I could track animals by heartbeat. I didn't tell anyone. Some changes you accept in silence. One morning, a beast entered the village. Massive, covered in eyes. It didn't roar, just walked straight through huts, ignoring fire, ignoring spears. People ran, screamed. It wasn't hunting, it was searching. For me, I didn't run. I walked out to meet it. We stared at each other, man and monster. Then it turned and left, vanished into the trees like mist. No one asked me what happened. No one needed to. From that day forward, people stopped looking me in the eye. Even the elders. They whispered when I passed, gave me food without words. Children were told to avoid my shadow. I wasn't offended. I preferred it that way. It meant I was finally safe, not because the village protected me, but because they were just as afraid of me as they were of the jungle. Maybe more. But fear doesn't mean you're free. It just means you're next. And on Jungla Prime, even predators are prey to something worse. We always thought we were forgotten, that the stars had passed us by. We didn't pray to the Emperor, not because we hated him, but because nothing beyond the canopy felt real. Space was a story. The Imperium was a rumor. Nobody had ever seen it. Not truly. Until the day the sky tore open. It started with thunder, but it wasn't the kind we knew. This was mechanical, metallic, endless. Then came the light, not lightning, but fire, white and blinding. A ship breached the cloud barrier, descending like a god's blade. Engines howling like they hated the world. The trees recoiled. Animals screamed and ran. The jungle shivered. We'd seen predators. We'd seen death, but never anything that made the world react. That was how we knew it wasn't just another threat. It was something worse. It was something new. They landed a kilometer from the village. Not soldiers, not at first. Just servitors. Drones. Machines that crawled like beetles and floated like ghosts. They scanned. Sampled. Didn't speak. We didn't approach them. Didn't touch them. We waited. 3 days later, the real ones came. Adeptus Administratum. Steel uniforms. Masks. Purity seals fluttering in the jungle wind. They didn't greet us. They announced us, as if we'd been waiting to be discovered, as if this was some ceremony and we were lucky to attend. I didn't show myself at first. Watched from the trees. They walked like they owned the dirt, but the jungle didn't bow. On the second day, one of them was taken. They said he wandered too far. We knew better. He stepped on soil that remembered blood. The jungle doesn't care if you're off-world. If you bleed, you belong to it. On the fourth day, they spoke. Not to us, but at us. Through a voxcaster mounted on a floating servo skull. The voice that came out was too clean, too loud. It echoed through the jungle like it didn't belong. By decree of the Imperium of man, this territory is now under the light of the Emperor. All able bodies are to report for genetic screening and potential conscription. Compliance is your salvation. They thought we were savages. They weren't wrong, but they misunderstood what that meant. Savage doesn't mean stupid. It means we survived what would break them. They began collecting names, tagging wrists, drawing blood, asking questions we didn't answer. One man refused a needle. They stunned him, dragged him away. We never saw him again. The jungle grew restless. Roots pushed through huts. Flowers bloomed in unnatural shapes. A sickness moved through the ground. It wasn't fear. It was warning. We tried to explain. The elders approached their commander, a tall man with red bionics and a frozen smile. They told him the jungle was alive. He laughed. He said, "That's just superstition. You will be re-educated in due time." He didn't last the week. They found his body strung between two trees, skinned with surgical precision, organs replaced with leaves. I knew what did it. The jungle didn't just want blood. It wanted to show it could do science, too. That night, the village gathered. Some wanted to run. Some wanted to fight. I stayed silent until one of the kids asked me, "Are they gods?" I shook my head. No, gods don't bleed. The next morning, they called for volunteers. Those fit to serve the Emperor will be uplifted to glory. No one stepped forward, so they chose at random, started dragging people from their homes. I didn't intervene, not then, because something inside me was curious. If the jungle shaped me to survive here, what would the stars make of me? When they finally pointed at me, I didn't resist. I stood, walked, said nothing. They cuffed me, scanned me, logged my blood type, reflex time, scar count. The tech priest raised an eyebrow at the last part. "You've seen combat," he said. I just stared at him. "You'll do well in the guard," he muttered. I didn't ask what that meant. Didn't need to. I already knew. They loaded us into a crawler transport. 18 of us, shoulder to shoulder. No goodbye. No ceremony. Just cold steel and the hum of machinery. The jungle watched us go. I felt it, like it was pulling something from my chest as we left. A tether, a root. It didn't scream. It just let go. And that scared me more than anything. Because if it let go, it meant I wasn't part of it anymore. I was something else. Something it was sending outward. Space is cold. Silent in the wrong ways. Not the comforting silence of the jungle, where things wait and breathe and hunger. This silence feels hollow. Unnatural. Out here, nothing watches you. Nothing tests you. You just float through metal corridors. Hear orders bark through static. And march because someone in a taller hat told you to. They gave me a lost gun. They gave me armor. They told me I was lucky. That I'd been chosen. They had no idea what they were bringing on board. We fight now. Hive cities. Tomb worlds. Dust planets where the sun never rises. I kill when they tell me. Faster than anyone. Cleaner than anyone. I don't speak unless needed. They think I'm disciplined. But it's not discipline. It's instinct. I don't dream of the stars. I dream of vines. Of roots sliding beneath metal floors. Of spores creeping through the vents. Of the jungle whispering, "Come home." Sometimes I see it in my squad mates. Their skin pale. Their hands twitch. They wake up gasping, coughing black mucus. They think it's trench rot. They think it's nothing. I know the signs. The jungle is inside them, because it never truly let go. The Imperium thinks it conscripted me, but I wasn't taken. I was sent. The jungle doesn't waste its weapons. It plants them, grows them, and then watches them bloom where they're needed. I am not a soldier. I am not a man. I am its seed. And one day, when the soil is soft, when the stars forget to look, I'll crack open, and the jungle will eat again.